All right, so we got the housing cleaned up, got all the parts cleaned up, new spool valves, the O-ring kit. The O-ring kit is nice. It comes with the paperwork, so you can lay, your packing on there to see which part number that you have. And a lot of times you'll learn that deer will have a yellow paint on some of the O-rings. As I try to find one, they'll usually have like right there, that little yellow at the tip of my thumb. You can kind of see that yellow stripe. Some will be a red stripe. That way you know that you've got all those same O-rings, because there's a lot of them that are close in size. But at this point, it's super simple. We just need to put our new O-rings in the housing here, our new O-rings on this guy, new O-ring on our flow control, and our new O-rings on our poppets and the little poppet guide. I'll get all them on, and then we'll start assembly. A quick note is always remember these backup rings. If you ever question how a backup ring goes with an O-ring, the O-ring always goes to pressure side or to oil side. The backup ring always goes away from pressure. On these deer poppets, see how this one has the O-ring at the bottom and this one we don't. The two pressures get the extra O-ring at the bottom. The two returns don't. If your kit contains enough O-rings to put them down here, go ahead and put them down here. If that really bothers you when you're at the dealer, just get 2 extra O-rings and 2 extra backup rings to put on this lower kit. Then you don't have to worry about mixing them up or anything. Pretty basic. So them are done. Now I just keep moving forward. All right, got our cam in. Remember, this little cutout goes to the oil port. And now we'll spin it around and get the other end together. All right, so everything is cleaned up and put in place. I like to use the blaster, just any type of pressurized lubricant for a final rinse. You get the O-rings on, you set them down, you grab the next part, and you put the O-ring, and it might get a little dust on it from over there. So I like to give it a good blast with any type of aerosol lubricant, and then dip it with some oil to put it together. But we're together. So the other thing is if you have a hard time, like that packing right there, if you have a hard time getting him to stay in place, is you dab grease. If you want an O-ring to stay in this hole, go get some good heavy grease, put in that hole and put the O-ring in there, and the grease will hold it in there, especially on some of this stuff, when you're going to put it on upside down. But we'll get that on. There's this false cover that goes in place, and that holds them poppets down hard against their seat. But I would like to think at this point in my life I have enough finesse on that lever that you can feel it. But sometimes it is difficult because your detent can throw your feel off. But we'll get it figured out here. Bear with me. All right. The old way of doing this was you'd set up an indicator, or the right way to do it is you set up a dial indicator, and crap, I don't even remember what the specs were, like 30 thousandths of clearance on the returns and 60 thousandths of clearance on the pressure, because you want your return to open before the pressure. So then you mounted that stop plate with them bolts up front so the poppets couldn't move at all. So right now I'm tight, so there is no neutral at all. So on our we'd turn that roughly a quarter-ish, and him about an 1/8 inch, and now you see it loosened up for that little bit of neutral. Same up here, we go a quarter turn and an 1/8 turn. Now you've got a little bit of neutral there. If you have an SCV that leaks, that settles the disc down or settles an implement down overnight or in a couple hours, whatever, go out and feel that lever, and you should have a little bit of some neutral slop to it. We'll take it over to the bench and air test it and see if the housing holds pressure now. Maybe even with the new poppets, because I was suspicious of this housing since we found them cracks or them chunks of metal in there, that maybe the housing is bad. Let's hope not. I don't want to spend $1,000 on a replacement SCV. But yeah, let's go air test it and continue on from there. So after all that work, the housing itself is cracked, because you can hear that in there. But if we pop, that's pressure port. And if I come, hear that big echoey sound, that's the return port open. But this return isn't working. This return, it's leaking right past that return. So that housing is probably crap. Normally I do not grind them valve seats. 99%. I bet Dad hasn't pulled that valve grinding kit out in 15 years, other than a very rare one like this where you saw a lot of damage to the seats. And so yeah, put him on the shelf, save him for a parts unit, and I guess get a replacement coming. Well, sorry about that fix-it video, guys, but that's how it goes sometimes. We were very suspicious of that in the beginning, but you at least have to try to rebuild it to make sure. And so, well, what do? You know, you can't win them all. So, all right, guys, well, thanks for watching. Hope it at least had some entertainment value for you, and we'll catch you on the next update.